So how do you distinguish between sharing that you're kind of having a hard time or something like that? And you do kind of write it a little bit in the book, but when you do acknowledge to the people around you that you're having a difficult moment because of the pain, so to speak, is that different for you? Can you share a little bit about the struggle without kind of burdening them, or is it kind of more one way or the other for you? And does that question make
Yeah,
sense?
I mean, I think that I think people learn to see it. Um,
Yeah.
so people that I'm close with can tell when I'm having a
Right.
bad day, and and
Yeah.
they just give me space, so I can go and do whatever I need to do to sort of take care of it as best I can. So whether that's going,
Right.
it's usually going to a bedroom and turning the lights out and putting my self hypnosis recording on. So I have recordings for sleep, for pain, for all sorts of stuff, and um, and that sort of helps me to drop into that meditative state. And so I
Right.
do it. I spend a fair bit of time in trance. Yeah.
Can you describe, I guess, your process of dealing with it? So you did the detox thing, and then you kind of had to find some way to fucking deal with all this. So can you sort of tell us a bit like how that all evolved?
Well, I think that complicating factors is that in 2014 I had low back issues, so I was diagnosed with spinal stenosis, and so that became daily pain added to my headaches. So it was like, hey, what the fuck is going on now? And I had
Yeah.
to figure out how to sort of manage that. So I went to physio, did physio exercises every day. I started doing yoga every morning, at least for 15 or 20 minutes. And that was a little helpful. But once again, it didn't take the pain away completely, but I stayed away from any narcotics. So I was taking, extra strength Tylenol and Advil. One of the things they told me when I left the CAMH medical withdrawal unit was to combine Advil and Tylenol at the same time because they act on different centers in the brain. So you can get added relief when you take them together.
Right.
So, and then my pain specialist said, no, stay away from Advil and Aleve because they said that in later life that can cause stroke. And there's always something that can cause, right? Anyway, but I ended up
Right.
taking, a dozen extra strength Tylenol a day. And people would say, well, if it's not doing the job, why take it? Well, because it drops the pain by a notch, and a notch is significant, right? A difference of a notch can help me to conduct a session, being fully present, rather than having to be pulled away from by the pain.
I want to read one other thing here. When I spend time in bed trying to control the pain now, I am flooded with thoughts of all the things I should be doing as a partner, as a father and grandfather. But I have learned to accept these experiences and then shift away from them to the job of reducing the pain so I can be more involved as much as possible. Then the thought appears again. I could live another 20 years like this. Fuck me. and then over on the next page, I guess you talk about how, so here's, the bad habits are always more effective because the intention to get immediate relief is more powerful than the intention to reduce self-harm behaviors. However, in the long run, creating more positive habits is a healthier
Hmm.
solution. So I think not only for chronic pain, but certainly it must be so much more difficult, quite frankly. Can you talk about, and I assume, well, I know from listening to you and learning from you that so much of people's transformation or change or healing comes from acknowledging, how could I live another 20 years like this? Fuck me. To the transmission or the change or the transformation of that into acceptance, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. And can you just talk about how you work with acceptance and what
Yeah,
that's
I think
like?
that um, I mean, accepting the reality of the situation, I think, is always important. And I think that's one of the sort of foundational things of the ACT modality, is accepting that these things happen and these things come. And then the question then is, you have to decide on what you do about it. And for me, the fact that I can accept that I have this pain, and that I have even more pain now daily. One of the things I came to realize that was that if I make sure that at some point every day I find some joy, even if it's only a few minutes, that I can look back on and say that I like that. That was really good. That was important. I don't want to lose that. And I'd like to try and build that more. So that becomes my focus, that I accept that the pain is there. I do what I can to alleviate it, but try and shift and focus on the joy in life and the value in life. When I go for a walk, I often have the thought, this could be the last time I ever get to do this. Right? We don't know when our time is going to come. We also don't know where we're going, but if anywhere, that's another topic. But saying, this could be the last time, which means I want to make sure I get the most out of this. I want to see everything I see. I want to smell everything, all the senses, and that keeps me very focused on being mindful of the moment. And when I do that, because we are only able to focus on one thing at a time, right? I mean, we're good at multitasking, but we actually can only focus on one thing at a time. So if I'm focused on the five senses of what I'm experiencing, then the pain right away shifts to the background a little bit. Yeah. And I sort of recognize that, and I wanna try and build on that. I'd love to be able to shift it away completely, but I can't do that.
Right.
And I still try sometimes, but yeah.
Okay. I want to read another piece from in similar context. So you say, I am increasingly encouraged about the power of our minds to change sensations throughout our bodies: temperature, tension, pain, heart rate, blood pressure, and emotions. After establishing a foundation of daily practice of diaphragmatic breathing, control has never meant stopping emotions, negative or positive. Perhaps we should shift away from the term negative and positive and instead talk about difficult and enjoyable. Emotions often rise and recede like the ocean tide, and all emotions need to be accepted and experienced fully. It is important to work through the difficult emotions and fully embrace the enjoyable ones without trying to hold on to them. As we all know, they too pass. Chronic pain also rises and recedes, even though the pain may never go away completely. To establish control over painful emotions, I must recognize when they are rising, understand and accept them without judgment, spend time with them so they settle, then shift my focus to other, more pleasant endeavors. And I guess that's what you just kind of described there. Can you talk a bit about, I see this when working with people, when things do start to change and they have good moments and life gets good for them, they have to relearn that not attaching to that is important too, and not getting carried away in the good and thinking that's how it's supposed to be either. And so you point that out here so nicely. And so maybe you can expand on that, or maybe you
Well,
already did.
you
I
want
don't
to,
know.
I mean, it's a natural thing to want to hold on to happiness and joy, realizing that we can't hold on to it for good. It'll last as long as it'll last. You want to just enjoy it as fully as possible while it's there, and not try and hold on to it. Because I think what happens when we do that is we get into a pattern, like everything else. We get into a pattern of being upset that we don't have that anymore. Right? I had that, that was so good. I wanted to hold it, and I couldn't. Shit, I fuck, and and that's not helpful. And it leads it actually then I think develops into that the way people start to just try and avoid happiness because they can't hold on to it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point?
Yeah.
That thought comes. What's the point? I'm going to lose it anyway, right?